If for the last month you have maintained your weight, and now we are stepping into June. If you're listening to this episode the day that it drops, we're literally 2 days away from June. For as much as you can sit here and wish you were somewhere else, there's value in recognizing that you've maintained a certain set of results. And that's what goes back to my whole podcasting example. I want to get better week after week, month after month, year after year. But I'm also going to acknowledge that still showing up every single week and being passionate about what I'm saying and being excited about the content that I'm putting out. And again, leading from a place of knowing that it could help even just one person, that is enough.
Let's link up with Krysta on the FYX. She's a wellness coach with a focus on mental well-being and physical strength.
What's up, FYX listeners? Welcome back to our latest episode of the FYX podcast. I'm your host, Krysta Huber. And if you are watching us on YouTube, should check out our video because we have a lovely four-legged guest today, my sidekick, if you follow me on Instagram, who's apparently going to be the star of this episode, my dog, Bean. Bean is almost 4 years old, but she still acts very much like a 1-year-old puppy. And if you do follow me on Instagram, you guys have seen all of my poop updates over the course of the last week and a half. So she keeps me on my toes. That is for sure. Love this dog to death. She can get away with so much just because she is so cute. But we keep it real here at the FYX. So candidly, I spent the last 35 minutes trying to sit down to record this podcast, only to have her bark, to try to give her toys, to try to give her a bone, to try to take her outside. Could not figure out what she needed. And apparently she just wants to sit right here next to me. So we're just going to let it roll and see how it goes. If you hear any jingling, picking up on the microphone, that is her. And it's life, right? I really am very proud of the fact that I've been able to get to a place where I can turn the mic on and just start recording and not let these things bother me to the degree that they did 2 years ago, or I'd say even a year ago. And that does actually have some tie-in to what I plan to talk about today. So I'm just going to run with it. It's so easy for us to, especially as we find success and really climb the ladder of what it is that we want to accomplish. You can't sit there. She's literally sitting in the frame. So if we want to use this for a Instagram clip, I don't think it's going to work. So we're going to move you. Do you have anything about fitness and nutrition, ma'am, that you would like to share with the listeners? Or are you just going to make yourself... Okay, I guess you could sit there. Seriously, I know most of you guys usually watch or listen, I should say, but this is one of those episodes where it's totally worth going over to YouTube if you want a little laugh for like the first 2 minutes, but I digress. Okay, we're really going to get into it now. So where I was going with this was, it's so easy for us to continue to want more for ourselves, especially as we start to make progress with things. And in the case of the podcast, I have always wanted to hold myself to a high standard, particularly when it comes to production. If I have a week where I don't love how my camera looked, or I wanted to position something differently, or I feel like my microphone doesn't sound the way that I want to, or maybe I am a little bit sick, so I sound like I'm nasal. All of those things I take to heart and take very personally. It's not a bad character trait, the perfectionism, the high standards coming through. And I appreciate that I am wired that way because it encourages me to always put my best foot forward in everything that I do. But there's another side to it. And this side constantly shows up when it comes to our fat loss goals. And that's the fact that we never feel like things are good enough. And even as I went to go hit record for this episode and literally hit record like 3 times before I started, I kept saying to myself, like, no, this like has to be the time that you record this episode and you need to start this right now. And so because you're 150 plus episodes in, it's not acceptable for you to have your dog barking in the background or potentially somewhere in the frame. And it's like, okay, as soon as I said that to myself, I was like, wait a second. What's acceptable is the fact that you are committed week after week to sharing information that you hope is going to help some person, if it's even just one person along their journey. And the fact that you're a real human being is the reason why your audience connects with you so well. I just today, the day that I'm recording this, it's the Friday before Memorial Day weekend, had a conversation with a brand new client who joined us today. And I asked her, what encouraged you to reach out to me? And she said it so simply, but therefore so eloquently. She's like, you're just a normal person. I see you post things about you living your life, going out, having drinks, going out to eat, traveling, and still prioritizing taking care of yourself. And that's what I want for me too. I don't want to feel like I am stuck in this very rigid structure to where I feel like I have to say no to the drinks, to where I feel like I can't do normal things. So in the spirit of doing normal things, Bean's going to be a part of this episode and we're not cutting it out. And now she happens to be nice and calm, just sitting on my desk, just low enough so that she's not in the frame. So we're going to keep on rocking it. And I use this whole podcasting example, dog example, to illustrate the fact that now over 3+ years, going on 4 years into podcasting, week after week, while it's okay that I want to continue to hold myself to this high standard, I also would do myself a favor if I remember in that time how far I've come. To be able to stick to something weekly at one period in there for a few months, I was going every other week, but still extremely consistent. We do this to ourselves constantly. I see this with clients every single week when it comes to our expectations for losing fat. And what I want the message of this episode to be today, especially as we move into the summer, and I picked this timing for this whole spiel on purpose, is there's something to be said for maintaining your weight or maintaining your fat loss results for a certain period of time, 3 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years. But let's just, for the argument's sake of this exact time that we're dealing with, let's just say that there's something to be said for walking through this summer and maintaining your weight. If you desire to lose a few pounds, amazing. And I want to be the person to help you do it. But I also want you to recognize that if you're the person who's saying to yourself, Memorial Day weekend just passed, we're now right here in June. Summer started as a Memorial Day weekend. Maybe you didn't feel so great in photos you saw of yourself, or that moment of you putting on your bathing suit and you're like, I wanted to be in a different position. Doing more of what you've already done, like maybe not asking for help, trying to navigate these things on your own. If you continue to do that, you're still not going to get to where you want to go. Just going to make that very clear. But if you were to think about you a year ago, and I say this to our clients regularly, if you've been dealing with some things, stuff has come up in your personal life, work has been stressful, events are happening with your kids. A lot of people like to joke that the month of May is called Maycember because it has just as many events with the end of the school year as the holiday season in December, when there's just something on the calendar week after week, right? If for the last month you have maintained your weight, and now we are stepping into June. If you're listening to this episode the day that it drops, we're literally 2 days away from June. For as much as you can sit here and wish you were somewhere else, there's value in recognizing that you've maintained a certain set of results. And that's what goes back to my whole podcasting example. I want to get better week after week, month after month, year after year. But I'm also going to acknowledge that still showing up every single week and being passionate about what I'm saying and being excited about the content that I'm putting out. And again, leading from a place of knowing that it could help even just one person, that is enough That represents me being enough. And what I often find with clients, I said this to probably 5 people over the course of the last week, if not more, is we get to this place of saying, hey, like I've been consistently losing weight week after week, especially when you're in a calorie deficit, because that's the goal, right? If you're in a calorie deficit, the deficit is working for you. If we're seeing anywhere from, let's call it half a pound to over a pound of weight loss every single week. And then at some point, you will face a plateau. That is either an opportunity to change your calories, or 9 times out of 10 for us to take a step back and reassess if you allowed other events like work, going out to eat more frequently, activities with your kids, not enough sleep, choosing maybe less than ideal food options, you name it, to interfere with you showing up as well as you know you have been for all of those weeks where you consistently lost a half a pound, 0.8 pounds, another pound, etc. And I find that some of our most successful clients are the first ones to throw themselves under the bus and be like, I don't understand why I'm not getting to where I want to go. I've been continuing to lose weight or been consistently losing weight for the past 6, 8, 12 weeks, whatever it's been. And now all of a sudden I'm not, and I still want to lose more. I'm all for supporting the person who still wants to lose more, but I also see an important responsibility as a coach to help you take 2 steps back. And what's really cool is because we have clients who are committed to our process for a minimum of 7 months, but on average, most of our clients work with us for at least 1.5 years, if not 2+ years. That gives me so many data points to be able to go back and show them, hey, look where you were this time last summer. I have a number of clients who started with us right around the end of May, early June of 2023. And even if they had sights set on bigger goals, every single one of them has made massive progress over the course of the last year. And because they've made that progress and they've made these really big lifestyle changes, it's so normal to be like, well, I want more, because you now have so much evidence and so much proof that you can do it. And I love that. But at the same time, when we have those couple of weeks, when we have that 7 to 14 day window where work takes over, kids' activities take over, your social calendar picks up, there's a really cool opportunity for you to ask yourself, if I was, and I'll just use my name in this example, Krysta from a year ago, before I knew any of the skills that I have sharpened and acquired through my experience inside of the Fitness Fix, if I had a 2-week period of maybe not prioritizing my fitness and nutrition as much as I know I can, what would have happened in the 3rd week to follow that, or the 4th week? I can tell you, you would have fallen apart. You would have said to yourself, I'm not making progress, so this isn't working, and I can't do this. And you would have spiraled into that whole story of, I'll just never be that person who's going to be able to not only lose, but maintain that fat loss too. So there's a huge shift that happens when we see those couple of week windows where life is just lifing and you recognize that you maintain your weight, and the version of you from 12 months ago would not have been able to do that. I can't think of better progress to celebrate. And here's why. That is a measurable identity shift in the way you think about how your fitness and nutrition fits into your life, because you figured out what's the bare minimum for how you should show up or could show up when life gets busy. And we all know your life is going to continue to get busy. It will always be busy because that's the type of person that you are. We help the people who want to do it all. And we also want to help you do it better than the standard that you're setting for yourself right now. Sometimes better is reframing what's worth celebrating. Meaning, sometimes better is you maintaining status quo versus seeing a couple pound jump. Now, how does this fit into the whole summer season? We're coming up on the next 12, 14 weeks that for most people means additional travel, more social events, maybe more eating out, I say this every year. I have probably like 6 different podcasts I could go back to from last year and the year prior and pull up examples as to where I've talked about, even in my own life, how my level of FOMO tends to increase during the summer season, especially living at the Jersey Shore. The weather's nicer. You get that text from a friend to say, hey, let's go have a glass of wine and sit outside and enjoy it. And you're like, hell yeah. If you incorporate those things a little bit more than you normally do than any other season of the year, and you maintain your weight, that is a huge moment to be like, fuck yeah. Because there is a version of you that would have done that. And I know there's a version of me that's gone through those periods of being like, oh yeah, like I'm going to go out and socialize with my friends here. And then, yeah, I'll get back to my gym routine on Monday, but maybe it takes me until like Tuesday to get into my meal prep again. Or maybe by Wednesday, I'm going out to another dinner and I'm just kind of like half involved in the process of tracking my food to even the littlest bit of a degree that I know will help me maintain those results. And then what happens? Fast forward to September and I'm like, I probably could have shown up a little bit better for myself and still had a whole lot of fun. So that's something we focus on inside of the Fitness Fix. And that's really what coaching is all about. It's not about handing somebody these perfect macros and telling them to stick to them. It's saying, hey, for this particular season, for what's exactly on your calendar over the course of the next 12, 14, 16 weeks, what makes the most sense for you? And let's set up a goal that is very doable and would make you feel good in that time. And the thing that's going to make you feel good is if you can get all the way to September and ask yourself, did I show up in a way that is making me proud compared to a version of me a year ago or a year before that and a year before that? And every single one of our clients, when I ask them that question, when they're in that little pity party mode of being like, why didn't the scale move that week? And then they have the other part that's coming through and saying, I know why the scale didn't move because I was a little less focused than I was 3 weeks before that. Like they know, but there's still the natural desire to want to continue to see the change. You kind of get a little addicted to it. And that's a good thing because that motivates you to keep going. And then I asked them, how would this version of you a year ago handle this situation? Would this version of you a year ago have been able to maintain and sustain the fat loss that you've seen over the last 6 months? And the answer is always no. Because if the answer was yes, they wouldn't even be inside of our program in the first place. But we're so quick to try to skip ahead. And we're so quick to think that the ball should just keep rolling and rolling and rolling. And it's like, is that mentality really serving you? I don't think so. Because when you have that mentality, you start to beat yourself up for not continuing to make progress. And then honestly, you wind up self-sabotaging because you beat yourself up for not making progress and slip back into the habits that you had as a part of your routine before you really figured out how to prioritize your fitness and nutrition and fit it into your life with our help. So as we move into these summer months, I want you to ask yourself, are you setting a goal? Or are you already throwing in the towel and saying, this is not the time for me to focus on some kind of routine that is going to help me feel really good? It doesn't even have to be a goal around fat loss. It doesn't even have to be a goal around somehow changing the shape of your physique. What about having more energy? What about sleeping better? What about having more confidence? Or instead of more, what about if you happen to like how you feel right now, what about just maintaining this? Because there's value in that too. If you want to walk into September and say to yourself, I'm not super happy with how I look and feel right now, the best thing you could do is set no goal for yourself and just kind of kick the can down the road until we get to the fall. But the problem with that is something I've said on this podcast many times, but is important enough to repeat and is a hill that I will die on. If you keep kicking the can down the road like that, what are we going to do by this time next year? Because next Memorial Day is coming either way, right? Next summer is coming either way. And chances are you think you can't do it. You think you can't achieve a certain result because the ways you've tried in the past have not actually fit into your lifestyle. And I'm not saying we don't need to make compromises. There will be things that you may say no to. My nutrition coach sent an awesome email reminder to our entire client base today. And I read it just before I hit record on this. And he said, it's okay to turn down the drink. It's okay to not finish everything that's on your plate. It's also okay to say yes to the drinks. Because, and this was the part that stood out to me the most, the way you look right now, the body that you are currently in, is a body that is a result of decisions made for years prior to right now. And that's such a great point because, again, it gets into that idea of really taking a step back and zooming out and thinking about your progress on a bigger scale. And also acknowledging that if we know that if we want to do this, when people say we want to do this right, and I'm putting right in air quotes, meaning we want to do this in a way that we can say yes to things that we've always assumed that if we want to lose weight, we have to say no to, that's going to take time. So why not start now? That same client that I mentioned at the beginning of this recording who just joined our community, we were discussing whether she wanted to sign up for a 7-month option or 9 or 12. And with very little hesitation, she said to me, let me do 12 months. And I'm actually really glad that I finally reached out to you now, because as I think about the fact that we're heading into June, I have my birthday coming, I'm taking a trip to Europe for a concert, and I am going to be so much better off if I have your support. Because if I know that I'm going to be busy, I have you and Caitlin in my back pocket to be able to help me navigate those situations instead of questioning if I'm doing it right, or maybe even feeling like my only long-term solution is to not enjoy myself at these things. That's the philosophy of somebody who will not only get fantastic results, but I am already so confident will walk away from our program this time next year fully capable of maintaining them and is truly empowered in leading the life that she wants to lead while both having fun and prioritizing her health and wellness, liking how she looks, and no longer feeling like everything around food and workouts and all these decisions feels like her entire personality. Because I've been seeing that a lot lately from people with the whole idea of like, oh, I love the fact that you're just like a normal person. Something that I really interpreted and something I've thought about in looking at things on social media is there's so much noise around food, not in the sense of like, this is the best diet, or you should try this approach and this fad diet and this workout or whatever. That exists. But also in the sense that like in people's minds, there's so much noise around food about thinking about what is my next meal going to be. And I would love to be able to quiet that noise for more people. And we can. And that doesn't have to mean that all you're doing is eating the same 5 ingredients every single day. It doesn't have to mean that your meals are boring. It doesn't have to mean that it just looks like chicken and broccoli all the time. But that's what most people think, because we tend to live on those extremes. The bland, the plain, the boring over here, or let me just have all my fun and not worry about the consequences and convince myself that I'm not capable or it doesn't really matter. There's middle ground. And we have it at the Fitness Fix. And one of the reasons I'm so confident in that outside of our own clients' results is because I am in the thick of it too. To bring this all home, I'll share a personal story about my own progress that I've made over the last 6 months. If you have been listening to our episode since January, I did mention at the beginning of the year that I had invested in different types of coaching, working with a transformation coach for self-development and mindset alongside my nutrition coach. And in the first few months of the year, a lot of my success physically actually came from changes in my habits that had nothing to do with food, like spending more time with my phone and do not disturb so that ultimately I can get to bed earlier. That resulted in losing 5 pounds faster than I ever had at any other point in my life. And now fast forward to basically June, I've lost about 20 pounds and I'm super excited about it. But I also too still desire for more results. And I had conversations with friends who are also fellow coaches saying, hey, like I took my progress pictures, I'm happy with them, but I still know that I have a ways to go. And one of my friends said to me, what would you tell your clients to celebrate the progress that you've already made? And the other thing I'll celebrate is I've lost those 20 pounds in a season of travel, changes to business, continuing to grow the business, maintaining the podcast, and finding ways to prioritize me. And it's very valuable to go through it and be in the thick of it alongside of your clients. And I think that's an important thing to look for in a coach. Because when you look for the coach who maybe already has the physique that you desire, I think, of course, that's valuable. But you have to ask yourself, do they understand what you're experiencing? Have they lived your life to some degree? We don't all have to have the same exact copycat experiences, but there's value when someone goes through something similar to you, or at the very least has a community of clients who've experienced those things. I was laughing to myself a few weeks ago because I was wishing Happy Mother's Day to a lot of people on Instagram, and I immediately got a Happy Mother's Day back. And while yes, I'm a dog mom, I do not prescribe to the fact that that makes Mother's Day a holiday for me, because I have such a level of respect for our clients who juggle managing their households, raising their children, getting their kids all the places that they need to be, and still finding the time to get creative, to get their workouts in, to meal prep accordingly. It's very inspiring. And I'm really grateful to have built a brand that speaks to that community, because having not experienced that part of my life yet, I feel like I've learned so much already and am able to help my clients also coach each other, which is really, really cool. And pulling on those other examples and saying, hey, this client over here, she's experienced that too. I'm sure she would love to talk to you. At the very least, let me just tell you about this conversation that she and I just had. And here are a few of the things that worked for her. And I'd love for you to try to execute on some of these things too. It's awesome. And it makes this work really rewarding to be able to say to a client, hey, like I'm right here with you trying to lose this weight too. And it's that work sometimes feels like it's never done. But when we program in the periods to focus on maintaining our results and really operate from a place of abundance, from a place of what do I get to do? What do I get to add to my plate? What can I incorporate that's going to make me feel confident, feel rested, feel satisfied? Insert any positive adjective. Put those positive and adjective together into one word, because that's what's going to encourage you to make this a lifestyle, AKA to keep going. So with all that said, that's all I got for you guys. Bean has fallen asleep on the table here. Hope you liked that little intro with her cameo. And let's go out here this summer and celebrate the wins of maintaining our results. And if you want support and you want the structure to figure out how you can do that through a busier time of year, you know we got you. Link to apply to one-on-one coaching is down in the show notes. Click it, reach out to me. I would love to talk to you more about what's included inside of the Fitness Fix and see if we are fit for you. And as always, thank you so much for tuning in today from wherever you're listening from. We hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. I'll catch you guys next week.